What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be showing you the best ALC settings you can have on controller so that you can be controlling your aim very precisely and accurately, and also have really good movement and all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First thing I want you to notice is how little my thumbstick is moving when controlling the recoil here. So I'm going to aim at a target a little farther away so you can actually see I'm controlling the recoil. I accidentally picked up a gray barrel, so let me take that off. So no barrel on an R3 with a 2X. Notice how my thumbstick is barely moving, my right thumbstick, to control the recoil. This is due to these settings, more specifically the linear response curve type, which I have a video breaking down classic versus linear response curve types, which I'll link in the description below and on screen now if you want to check that out. But let's go ahead and get into these settings. So to get into your ALC settings, you want to go to controller, and then all the way down you will have advanced look control. So that's what we're going to be turning on. If it's off, just make sure you hit it on. So we're just going to go from the top down. I'm going to explain each of them so that it's not confusing. Go ahead and start with Deadzone. So the Deadzone, basically you want this as low as possible without having bad stick drift. So I have mine on 5% because I do have stick drift. Some people can turn it down to like 2% or 1% and not have stick drift. And that's really good. You want it literally as low as possible without stick drift. So with mine on 5, it's not really doing it now, but sometimes my stick will drift. But it doesn't matter if you have a little bit of stick drift, you just don't want a lot. So if you have a little bit of stick drift with it on 5% or something, it's not a big deal, but definitely you do not ever want this to be really anything higher than 10. If you have a controller and you can't afford to get a new one and your old controller has a lot of stick drift, you know, maybe turn it up, but overall just keep it as low as you can. And 5% works really good for me. For the outer threshold, I recommend putting this on 3%. I believe some of these settings I got from pro player Jen Burton, who is probably, in my opinion, the best controller player in the game, definitely top 3. And some of these settings I actually got from him. But outer threshold, I believe he has it on 3, so I leave it on 3. And this is kind of like the outer threshold of your Deadzone. Again, it's probably something you probably want pretty low. So just put this on 3%, it should be fine. Response curve, this is an important one like I touched on earlier. This is where if you have it set up to 10, this is your classic response curve type. So if you do want to use ALC settings and you still want the classic response curve type, you can put this on 10 and that will be the classic response curve type. But what I recommend for maximum, precision and control in Apex, putting this on 0, which is linear. This will give you raw input and maximum control over your aim. And like I showed earlier, you barely have to even move your thumbstick to control your recoil. It makes it incredibly easy with a little bit of practice. It might take you a week to get used to it or something like that, or just spending some time in the firing range practicing. But I think it's the most valuable thing I've learned in Apex is how to play on linear on controller. It's really made me one clip people way more consistently and confidently. So again, if you want classic, you can put it on 10. If you want it on linear, put it to 0. As far as in between, this is where you can really practice if you're used to classic, which is what I did. It took me about a week or 2 to get used to it. So what I did from going from classic to linear is I started on 10 on classic. Then one day I was like, you know what, let me lower it down since I'm on ALC settings now. I put it to 8. So it was still closer to classic than it was linear, but it was still not quite full classic. So then what I kept doing was, every few hours I was playing or every other day, I'd bump it down a little bit. So I'd go from 8 to 6 and then 6 to 4. Then eventually I played on 3 for a while and then 2 and then 1. Then eventually I was to the point where I could just go full 0 on my response curve, full linear setting. And that's where I play now. So that's one way to transition if you don't want to go straight from a classic all the way to a linear just like that. You can just slowly lower it a little bit every day and slowly get more and more control of your thumbstick and kind of ease yourself into it. For per optic settings, I actually always had this off before, but recently I decided to turn it on just so I could make my sniper scopes a little bit faster when ADS. So basically that's the 6, 8, and 10x. I just up to 1.5. This is kind of preference. You don't need to do this. You could leave the per optic ADS sense off, but I personally found the sniper scopes to be a little bit slow, so I just wanted to speed them up just a little bit, but not too much. Now we are going to talk about your yaw and pitch. Now the yaw and pitch, these top 2 here, are basically just your sensitivity. settings. So yaw, I recommend putting at probably at least 350 for good movement. Same with pitch. I like to have my yaw and pitch the same. Some people like to, have their pitch a little bit lower, but I personally like to leave them the same. So I'm going to recommend 350 on both of these to start. But if you really want to get good and have the best movement, maxing these out at 500 is going to, allow you to move around faster. Whether it's, your hip firing is going to be faster, which is a little harder to control, but with some practice, it's really not bad. But also, just your movement, just turning and everything is going to be faster. So that's why I recommend, putting it on at least 350. You do not want this too low. With this on 500, it's actually not too fast. I think it equates to about 8 on the look sensitivity here. So if you're used to playing on, 6, 7, or 8 here, then the 500 really won't be too bad because it's equivalent to an 8 look sensitivity in the standard settings here. So, but yeah, anywhere from 350 up to 500 is what I'd recommend for that. Now for the extra pitch and yaw and extra ramp up time and delay, just leave these on 0. You don't really need these. Kind of useless, kind of creates inconsistencies in your movement and your aim, in my opinion. So just leave these on 0. I'm not going to talk about them too much. Now we're going to get into the ADS settings. Now these are going to be a little bit different. So ADS, you want lower sensitivity than your movement because you want to be able to control your aim and not have too high of a sensitivity. So I think anywhere between like 130 to 150 range is pretty good here. I've been using 130 and that's what I'm used to, but if you do feel like it's a little slow, maybe go up to like 150, but I think somewhere in that area is where you want to be with it. And again, I leave them both the same. Now what's different here is I do use the extra yaw and extra pitch for my ADS. So I used to not use this, but why I decided to use it is because if I'm aimed down sight, say I'm just trying to scout out an area, so say like there's an enemy over there and then I see an enemy over there. I'm looking over here with my little 2x just so I can zoom in and, see what's going on better. On the regular sense, this is how you got to look around. It's like really slow with my 130 ADS sensitivity. But what this, what's it called? Extra yaw and pitch does is once I move my thumbstick past a certain point while ADS, it'll actually add another 130 onto my speed. So that means whenever I'm tracking enemies and stuff, doing this, it's normal sensitivity, just the 130. But if I move my thumbstick more aggressively, it moves faster. So basically this is just good for looking around, scouting out the area. But then if you need to control your aim, you don't have to move it that much. But it's not really necessary. So if you want to leave that off, you can, but if you do want to try it, give it a shot. And then finally, target compensation. Make sure you have that on. If you do want to turn it off to practice your recoil control, I do think that's a really good thing because then you can practice with the aim assist off. And then when you turn it back on, it feels honestly really good. I think it's a really good way to warm up, in my opinion. But anyways, that does it for the ALC settings. If you want maximum control over your aim in Apex, I do recommend trying out the Control Freak Galaxies. That's what I recommend. You can use any Control Freaks, but I really recommend the Galaxies, especially because of the high-rise stick that you use on your right stick, which is used for aiming. It really helps you be more precise and gives you better grip on the thumbsticks. I highly recommend them, and you can use code SCRIDLY at controlfreak.com for 10% off, and I'll leave a link in the description as well. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.